Good day, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time it is you're watching this, in whatever part of the world. But it's episode 3 in the House podcast with myself, Scott, and obviously the main man, Jason Reid. How are we, mate?
I'm good, mate. Buzzing me back on the old podcast. So much has happened.
Oh, mate,
since the last time we
probably
were
should have
on
had
here.
about 3 podcasts in between the last one and now.
Yeah, we probably should have. But yeah, so much has happened since the last time we've been on. Buzzing to talk some shop and discuss the ongoings in the wonderful world of pro wrestling.
We've got 2 special guests, actually. First one is the main man, Triple H here, the legend that is, obviously going through a tough time at the minute, and know that you'll see this, but all the best. And we're also joined, we've added to the team. No, it isn't actually Becky Lynch. It's like SummerSlam moment now, isn't it? It's Rhiannon, who really likes Becky Lynch.
Hi guys. I do really like Becky Lynch. I think, slight understatement, maybe just a wee bit.
Come on, Scott, do better, man. Come on, read your notes, brother.
It's a bit like me with the main man trips there, I suppose. It's a love, isn't it?
It is very much a love of Becky Lynch. That's very true.
Well, do you know what? Let's start with the man then. What were you like at SummerSlam then, Rhiannon, when our music hit?
I mean, I was out at Walkabout for the Hooked On event, and I was merry. I think merry's putting it politely, and I lost my mind. Actually, I lost my mind a little bit. My girlfriend's actually recorded the reaction. She'd never been to one of these events, and I just remember she did. She got the reaction.
So are we going to see this at any point?
Should have got that.
It has been tweeted. I have tweeted it. It's out there on Twitter somewhere. But I kind of remember just sliding off the chair, and it took me about 5 minutes. And there's just this video of me running around screaming at the top of my lungs.
She is big news, obviously, in wrestling as Becky Lynch, but I think we all kind of were excited because I was messaging Simmy, who's part of the pod as well, and he was saying, "What surprises do you think we'll get before SummerSlam?" And I did say, I think maybe Becky Lynch will finally make that return.
That was a bold call. I didn't say the same thing.
I don't know any info, by the way. It was a hunch and a guess.
I thought it was really good. I didn't predict it, to be honest with you. I did not think she was going to come back. But yeah, it was great. Like the reaction that she got from a sold out crowd, SummerSlam, Las Vegas, Saturday night, unbelievable. Almost took the roof off. Yeah. And it's exciting because, now we've got this situation on our hands where well, what's going to happen next? Bianca Belair was a good champion, had a great few matches, obviously won it at WrestleMania. So what's next in store?
I'll no give this question to Rhiannon, but did you agree with how Becky won it? Or was there a wee bit of... Because let's face it, Bianca's been tremendous, right? And I know it's building, that rematch between them. I know that was the seeds being planted, essentially. Mm-hmm. Should we have had a match, though?
Potentially, but my answer's no. Because if you got that match then what do you look forward to? True. What do you do, the payoff match between the both of them? For me, it was good. I think a lot of people might kind of watch the pilot episode here and maybe think it's, and judge it on that. That's exactly what it is. There's going to be a lot to come from both of them. Yeah. And there's going to be that finale, that season finale, that payoff match, which I'm sure is going to be, worth the wait. So, for me, good. Looking forward to the next sort of, the next stage for sure.
Rhiannon, obviously, Bianca Belair has been excellent, and great to watch. And it's why I sit as a fan and I go at it and I say, oh, that could have been a wee bit more. Do you know what I mean? We could have been a wee bit more exciting with that, But then you speak to Jason, who's obviously a wrestler, and you see the reason why maybe, as I say, his brain's different function than mine.
It's more business perspective and potentially fan perspective. I was excited she was back, but I still thought it did do Bianca a bit of disservice. But when you look at her crowd reactions the past 2 SmackDowns, she's still been very well received by the fans. Getting those EST chants. Obviously, when you look at Becky's reaction, I think they're a nice touch when they're chanting for Bianca. She's looking as if you're supposed to be cheering me. I'm the champion, and they're wholeheartedly behind Bianca. So is it a potential Becky heel turn? I could see that. I think Bianca would be a very good babyface in terms of Becky being a heel for this feud going forward.
Do you not think that Becky Lynch is one of those personas, one of those wrestlers at the moment who's almost like that, like she says, like that Stone Cold Steve Austin type, where she can flip really and do what she likes?
Yeah, exactly. And I think it might just be a case of, go out and see what happens.
Yeah, live off the reaction.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it might change from town to town. It might change from event to event, which is cool. There's not a lot of people that hold that card and they're able to pull it out, at the flick of a switch or whatever. So it's exciting. We don't really know. They're kind of, I guess, a tweener at the moment. One side and the other, depending on what way we look at it. So, yeah, it's good. I think we kind of know where it may end up, but the exciting part is waiting on it happening and all the bits and pieces that are going to unravel as we get there. Yeah.
Becky Lynch returning was just a minuscule part of how great SummerSlam actually was. I enjoyed it from start to finish. The wee surprises like Becky Lynch, Brock Lesnar obviously coming back. Me and you have spoke about Cena before and how I've not really got the same amount of love for Cena as a lot of people. I'm not in that Cena. I'm not in the C Nation, shall we say. However, his match with Roman Reigns was tremendous. I loved every minute of the match. I loved every minute of the build-up. The promo work on the mic and the build-up to it on SmackDown was off the scale, wasn't it?
It was amazing. It was so good. We sat here the last time and I told you how good it was going to be when John Cena came back, and I wasn't wrong. The build-up, when it started off, everyone was kind of waiting. They're like, right, when are we going to change gear?
Yeah.
Because we kind of knew it was happening, and they were doing these promos that didn't really change gear. Boom. Then all of a sudden it did, and the promos were up there, bit of back and forth, and before you know it, you're like, wow, this is going to be an amazing main event. And then fast forward to the actual match, it was brilliant. It was everything it needed to be. John Cena, big match. John, does he ever let anyone down in these main events? No. Roman Reigns is amazing, and Brock Lesnar returning as well, and then the match just capped it off for me. What a match!
Rhiannon, the mic work, obviously building to that match at SummerSlam. Heyman singing Cena's tune, things like that. It was just, I loved every minute. SmackDown, I've got to admit, is what I look forward to at the moment, every week.
It's hard not to. I will admit, I was watching that with my nephew. My nephew was not impressed with Mr. Heyman and his attempts at Mr. Cena's entrance music. Let's put it that way. No, I mean, putting Reigns with Heyman was a fantastic idea. I think that's just elevated Roman. And I think it's a nice seed in terms of this potential Brock Lesnar feud going forward. But as you say, SmackDown currently is, for me at least, some of the best things going in WWE. That's right now for me the ratio. They've got some pretty big names on the roster right now.
Yep, definitely. I think watching SmackDown every week, I'm very rarely let down. Don't get me wrong, sometimes you can think, right, I've seen that fight. But listen, you've got to build, you've got to keep things going, do you know what I mean? And that's the way it goes. But I just think the whole head of the table thing is epic. They have got it bang on with Roman Reigns. The way he's just absolutely bulldozing through everybody is the way that Roman Reigns should be in this time. It must be amazing for you as a wrestler watching it as well, like how good that story, that character is.
It's so, I can't even explain to you how good it is. Like, it is so good. And we haven't even seen half of it yet.
Yeah.
We haven't, because the guy's got so much potential. When you think about all the possibilities, so now we're looking at this feud with Lesnar. He's going to have a match with Lesnar probably. And then there's a very, very high chance that The Rock comes back and he works with The Rock and has a match with The Rock. And then we've got to think about the Money in the Bank. And then you've got guys like Cesaro that are probably going to step up and have a match with him.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. He's doing everything he needs to do, and he's not slowing down.
No.
He is not slowing down. It's great.
It's fantastic to watch. What else have I got in there? I've still left the Man Returns on that. Look, I had the one for the head of the table and everything, and I never changed it. Do you know what I mean? You think I was new at doing these? I'm not really new at doing these things. I just get things wrong. So Going forward then, in terms of Raw, SmackDown, is there anything bubbling away for yourself, Rhiannon, that's just kind of maybe going under the radar a wee bit and maybe going to explode?
I think the women's tag division, because obviously you've got Shotzi and Tegan on SmackDown, and then you've got this new kind of pairing of Nikki ASH and Rhea Ripley going forward. I think Natalya and Tamina have been quite strong tag team champions, so I would like to see where a potential feud between those kind of three teams would go going forward. Will we have another tag title match potentially at Extreme Rules? Is that something that they could build towards? So that's something I'm definitely looking forward to, the kind of build up of the women's tag division again.
Yeah, Jason, then for yourself, that's kind of bubbling right. There's a few things going on. Let's face it. There's a few things going on. I quite like, again, loving the Usos. I know we've talked about Roman Reigns, but I'm loving the Usos being back. I'm loving their matches. I love everything about the Usos. I always have, to be fair.
The Usos are so good, man. I love them. So good. We were actually talking about the other day, like how big that family is in wrestling. It's insane. You don't realise how many relatives have wrestled.
Wow.
I was speaking to a mate the other day, and we were watching some old Royal Rumble. It was about 2002, and there was a guy that came out, and he was like, "He looks like Umaga." I'm like, "Mate, it is." It had a different gimmick before then. He's like, "What? No way!" I was like, "Yeah, man, he's been there forever." He was there forever. So yeah, Usos are amazing. There's just so much, like the stuff that the girls are doing as well. You know, like we just touched on, is exciting, and I just think there's so much bubbling away. Like you've got like Nakamura and stuff. You've got Kevin Owens, Jake Paul, Corbin. Paul. This is going to be exciting. There's something happening here. There is. And I'm looking forward to. I love stuff like that, man.
I'm looking forward to seeing KO smash Jake Paul, thingy Paul all about the place.
I think he might.
I agree.
I think he
Paul
might.
all about the place.
Yeah, I think he might.
I'm looking forward to him taking a stunner. That's what I'm looking forward to seeing. That's just me, I suppose. I get roped in with that stuff, though. I can't take myself back for it usually and say,
I love it.
Oh, let's see what's happening. But that's because I'm a fan. I'm not part of it. I'm a fan.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
I actually watched that. I was watching it with my mum, weirdly enough, right? So it was on, obviously, mum's round. And so they're doing the segment and the talk show. And they get a little shoving match. I'm like, this is it, mum. Here we go. This is them planting the seed. It's happening. It's happening. So you watch some.
Love it. Love it. It's the same when we talk to Paul. Paul will usually say to us, I remember, giant haystacks and all that stuff. And you go, see, everybody that's of an old generation that doesn't watch wrestling, it's just giant haystacks they ever watched in life. Because that's the one everybody goes back to. You've got Hogan and all that, do you know what I mean? For years ago, but no, giant haystacks. I remember him, Big Daddy.
Big Daddy.
Oh, it's a bit nuts, man. It's a bit nuts. Last time we were on, mate, we were talking about the network and some of the stuff we've been watching on that, because I'm keen to have this podcast being a wee bit about the modern day, what's happening in the world of wrestling, and then trying to look back on, because we've all got golden times and golden eras, teeth back in, eras that we watched as kids, etc. I've actually went back and revisited the invasion angle.
Oh, yes.
Right? Because it's something that just, at the time, I remember watching the whole Shane walking out in WCW and Vince's reaction and all that stuff. And then I watched what's the ones around the table called?
Table for Three.
Table for Three, that's it, Rhiannon. And it was Shane, Bruce Pritchard, and John Laurinaitis.
I've not seen that one.
Oh, mate.
Oh, man.
Get on the network and catch that up. That is tremendous. And what it specifically is about, and this is what triggered me going back to this time, is that they're talking about that night when they go over. Because obviously, John Laurinaitis essentially at that time was running WCW because Bischoff had left and all that stuff. So he was basically put in charge to try and get some order to put on the telly. All the big stars were obviously away.
Yeah.
And he was basically put out. And they were talking about how Shane was saying about how Vince says to him and Bruce Pritchard, you're going on a plane and you're going to Florida. This is the angle, this is what we're going to do. Shane's like, oh, this is amazing, blah, blah, blah. He says, I was so excited by it. He says, then Vince says to him, you need to take these 6 security guards with you because I don't know how it's going to turn out when you get to the other end. So he says, these security guards will meet you when you get off the plane. They stick by your side the whole time you're through there. He says, because the way their talent sees it is we're essentially sacking them, right? Because they don't know who's going to be coming here and who's no. And I swear to God, see the whole episode. It's a lot of it is based on that, and it's sensational.
Wow,
absolutely sensational, man. The wee inside, didn't you? Especially about because Shane's like that. I was actually going saying, will they turn on us? Will this happen? Do you know what I mean?
Insane. That'll never happen again.
Man. Never.
I don't think it'll ever happen again. There's obviously the old talk that it's not going to happen. That was just an insane time for wrestling. The whole invasion angle, it was just delicious content. But
again, Rhiannon, though, you've got to feel sorry for WWE at the time because they couldn't recall and rely on a lot of the big hitters for WCW due to the contract situation with Turner and things like that. So although it was an invasion angle, it never reached its full potential given the talent. And there was no disrespect to the guys they could use and the girls they could use, but it just wasn't the same star attraction, I suppose, to the fans.
No, because, I mean, you had your Goldbergs and your Kevin Nashes and stuff, and, I mean, none of them were available. I mean, it was good for what it was. I mean, I definitely enjoyed some of the segments. I thought Booker T was a really good fighter. I think, you know, some people forget at the time how good Booker T really, really was, especially in his prime around about that time. But, I mean, you could make the case, if you had like a Goldberg or a Kevin Nash, would it have elevated it a wee bit more? Potentially, especially when you've got names like Stone Cold Steve Austin in the hat.
Yeah. And the thing on Stone Cold Steve Austin, what they were saying was that Austin was looking, because at that time, Kurt Angle was injured. Austin was carrying an injury. The Rock was away to Hollywood, obviously doing movies.
Yep.
So Stone Cold was looking at the roster and saying, who, as the baby face of the company, who am I going to feud with? Who am I going to have my work with going forward? And there was nobody there, he felt. So that's when they planted the whole heel turn with The Rock at WrestleMania. Prior to that, which was and still is not the highest paid for pay-per-view by fans.
Something like that, yeah.
I think it's the highest, and probably down to that match, let's face it, because the two of them created gold together. And he turned around and Austin says, we'll do the heel turn. And JR, I think it was, says to Vince, I don't think this is a good idea.
Yeah.
And Austin says, Vince says no, but we owe him for what he's done. He's carried this company, you know, and in terms, you know, obviously everybody says he's the best heel. Well, Mr. McMahon's the greatest heel the company's ever seen. Let's face it. You know, and no good heel can go with the babyface that goes with it, and that's where Stone Cold comes in it. So as Vince says, we owe him that, but then they had the chance to get out of it with the invasion storyline when it didn't work, and they didn't take it. Austin still wants to do the heel turn, so I don't know. I suppose it goes along with the whole Cena thing, because that's what everybody wanted with Cena. Let's see that heel turn. But then you've not got that ultimate babyface at the top of the company, and that's what John Cena provided.
I don't know. See, a lot of people for me have compared like Cena and Reigns, right? So it was the same idea kind of with Reigns. Obviously, it was this babyface that was getting pushed, and everyone was like, turn him heel, turn him heel. They turned him heel and it worked. But for me, it's a different kettle of fish with John Cena. It is. It's just not the same as... Like, you've got no idea how much merchandise that guy was selling.
Kids alone.
Like, it would keep the company afloat, for sure, that alone. So that's probably one of the main reasons. And it's John Cena, man.
You don't, even somebody who's not a huge fan of him, I wouldn't like to see John Cena have turned heel in that. And in that time when people were calling for it, because... He was serving a purpose. I wasn't buying into it because I suppose I was the bravado. I'm going in the old school wrestling. I'm back. I still want the Attitude Era. Do you know what I mean? All that stuff. And that was dead. That was never going to come back. And I suppose it maybe takes away from the stuff that Cena actually did provide. So
right. Exactly.
That's as much an admission as anybody's getting.
So what he's trying to say is John Cena is the greatest of all time.
I think... for me, it's like the longevity of Cena, because when you think about the time when he actually came into the company, it was like this ruthless aggression era, and he was like this rapper, and he was coming out in like that specific city's basketball shirt and hat and stuff, and then it's just been the longevity. This was who he was, and he's kept that character relevant, sort of like The Undertaker in that sense, over this past decade, to still sort of be relevant and the eyes of fans.
Yeah. Totally. So again, come back to that invasion angle. The invasion pay-per-view, WCW against WWE, or the Alliance against WWE.
Yeah.
And obviously Austin doing his heel turn. Can you remember that time, Jason? Can you remember you're watching it? Can you remember your thoughts? Because I was always a WWE person, although I was aware of WCW, so I always wanted WWE to win. But it's only now when you watch back the WCW stuff that you go, by God, they needed each other. Yeah,
without doubt. I mean, sorry to break it to you, mate, but I'm a wee bit younger than you, so I probably don't remember it as
all right.
As well. Obviously, I've seen all this stuff, but I've watched a lot more WWE than I have WCW for sure. WCW tapes and stuff, but I was always watching more WWE. So around that sort of time, I guess I probably wasn't clued up or really understood what was going on. But now, obviously, that I've watched all these older events back, I'm like what a time that must have been to have that and to watch that type of wrestling. But you know what? It is what it is. They were both really good companies, and in the end, one was managed a lot more efficiently than the other. And yeah, it's provided a lot of sort of great matches. Great matches, that we can watch now moving forward. And it's one of those pay-per-views that you can go back and watch anytime.
Yeah.
They've got great matches. Even the one with the referee was brilliant. So,
and do you know they tried to get Heyman against JR? You listened to that episode?
No.
Yeah, rather than do Hebner against Nick Patrick, wasn't
it? Yeah.
Rather than do that, they tried to get Paul Heyman against JR and go with that angle rather than the referees. And Heyman, I think, was all for it, and JR put a stop to it. I think JR says, I don't see what relevance it brings because nobody wants to see me wrestle.
I know. The thing is, because you're invested in these characters at the time, and you're not invested as much in those types of like you maybe get away with one in the referee match, because you know who the referees are, like, but yeah, you're kind of struggling a wee bit when it comes to putting those other types of matches on. That match,
Rhiannon, was essentially for Vince's entertainment.
Clearly.
And JR tells you that himself. Vince wants a bit to sit back and go, I'm just going to watch this and laugh at it. And that's essentially what he did. He's the main man. You can do what you like when you're the gaffer.
Well, that's very, very true. Just kind of reminisce. It's like, what was it? The Three Stooges, the evening gown match. That was purely for Vince's entertainment also as well. he's got away with some crazy stuff.
see for yourself though, right? And this is quite an important point because no, you offend MD, right? But growing up, I was a young boy, right? Obviously, growing up, right, and watching the wrestling back then, you did get the kind of matches with the women where you were like that as a young boy. Jesus Christ, that was amazing. Do you know what I mean? Not for the wrestling, just because of our stunning people, right? But see, from a female point of view, Rhiannon, obviously, as has been proven, right? And we had Lita and Trish Stratus back then who could actually wrestle, right?
Yep.
So, and then nowadays, the women's division, you look at it, it's sometimes, they steal the card, really, depending on the matches, same as the guys, some bad matches, some good matches. But do you not think that it's obviously it's better the way it is now with the females and getting the actual push that they deserve because they're good at what they do? Did you find that frustrating growing up?
I mean, yeah, I think it's a lot more noticeable now that I'm almost 30, but growing up, it was just because that was like tradition for us in the household. We watched Raw and we watched SmackDown, and it was a familial thing, and we'd all sit in the kitchen and we'd watch. So it wasn't quote unquote noticeable until you're talking like 2006 when Trish and Lita did get that main event, and that elevation was coming. And I mean, you had people like Ivory, who was in the original Glow, like she could wrestle. There was Jacqueline, there was Jazz. There was a few of them that could go. I just think that they needed the time and the proper elevation. But you hear a lot of people saying that Fit Finlay's been one of the biggest reasons why they have been elevated so much, because there was finally that voice in the backstage area going, let them show the world what they can do. And you were getting the wrestling matches with your Stacey Keibler and your Tori Wilsons, but it was like duff matches that were on for a couple of minutes. A lot of people are saying, it's the pee break. Now it's sometimes the women's segments are some of the must-see segments. It's what fans are expecting and waiting for. Like, amount of people I've seen on Twitter going, I wonder what's going to happen with this contract signing tonight on SmackDown. How's Becky going to pull herself out of this one? Because she keeps saying, no, it's in my terms, it's in my terms. So it's now elevated at the point. So it is, for me, as someone who grew up watching it, specifically in that era, it's so much better than it was, when I was 9 or 10 years old.
Can I just apologise because there's work going on out there? And we are picking it up through this. That's how good the mics are. We are picking it up. So if I dip in and out now and again just to try and stop the sound of drilling. But you're totally right, Rhiannon, what you're saying there. Yeah. Totally right. I just, you're looking back now, Jason, you see they're almost used as a gimmick. Do you know what I mean? When Trish, Lita, is Rhiannon, they actually could wrestle. Do you know what I mean? They never used them properly at times.
Yeah, they could, and they probably still can. They probably still wrestle a match better than I ever will be able to, because they're one of the most talented pair of individuals ever, as are the girls that are signed on the roster just now. I think when we look at that, it was certainly a different time for wrestling. There was a different audience that the company had to appeal to and draw in and retain. So whilst these girls could work a match, they didn't have to, because that wasn't a selling point at that point in time. The selling point was the girls, they could come out and do whatever they wanted to do, these segments or whatever, and that would get the viewing rates up just as much, if not more. So they weren't really required to, which is obviously, is a shame, because they had this hidden talent which now the whole world is aware of. But certainly at the time there was a purpose for it, and you could argue that it certainly served its purpose, because it brought in those sort of viewers for that particular demographic. And it was the same with WCW as well. When they brought in the Nitro girls, exact same idea. It's just appealing to that particular demographic. And it's a totally different time now. It's not appropriate. You could argue now it's not required. Whereas now we've got these girls and women who are athletes, who obviously now are getting the chance to showcase that on a weekly and nightly basis. So, yeah, fair play.
Have you seen the knock-on effect of that, though, going down towards like ICW and some of the other independent wrestling?
Yeah, for sure. And it's a shame because, there's always more male wrestlers than there are female. It's just, the way it is, going from sort of training, up to independence, and then obviously onto the scene. It's just the way it is. But what's important is that we now all understand that the girls and the women that are signed can perform to the same level, if not above, more often than not than the guys. So that's important, and it's an exciting time because it encourages girls to, who maybe are fans of wrestling, to get involved for that, to be a part of the sport and to be a part of the entertainment, and to learn how to wrestle, and go on and do it. Obviously my partner is a wrestler as well. And she's obviously been inspired by two types of generations. So she uses her gimmick and she kind of bases it on that area of the divas, quote unquote, which is cool. It gives that kind of different angle to it. But yeah, that's what it's all about. It's about inspiring, the girls of today and tomorrow, and empowering them, and showing off that talent to the world, because we all know they've got it.
Totally. And your partner is Ashley Vega.
Yes.
who's a fantastic wrestler as well. And do you know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. But this should be the push for even all right, WWE will set the standard with a lot of things which they're responsible for now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that filtering its way down must be great for young girls who are going, and I'm talking about kids now, who are going to watch wrestling events. I'm taking my wee boy to his first one. It's a week on Wednesday. SmackDown at the Hydro, and he's just, he came up the road. I get him from Dunoon, right? So you need to get on a ferry to go to Dunoon, right? In case anybody doesn't know that. And he's standing at the other side. Now, he just broke his leg 6 weeks ago, right? So he's walking me a wee bit of a limp, right? But he's standing at the other side, showing me the fact that he's walking as I'm still on the boat, right? So there's all this distance between us. And he's shouting, "Dad!" And I didn't know this until I get closer, but "I've got John Cena." And it was a big John Cena. It was a John Cena figure. Yes. And I've given them all my figures from when I was a kid that I've kept in my wrestling ring and all that I've kept in the Titantron. I've showed you at the Titantron that plays the music. And that's all you'll hear is him playing the music on this Titantron, pressing the button. It's usually The Undertaker's old tune or Stone Cold. And then you'll just hear banging about and then 1, 2, 3. And I'm going, that's the next generation, which is getting integrated into this mad sport that we all love.
It's so cool.
Oh, sorry to cut you off.
No, you go. On you go.
No, I'm the exact same. My nephew, he just turned 8, and I'm taking him to his first wrestling show on the 22nd, and he is absolutely delighted. He's buzzing. He's made his mum. He's like, I need my John Cena stuff, so that's him. All the new Cena merch off Euroshop. Spent a small fortune. I'm like, oh mate, you're very lucky. But I'm dying to take him. Like I'm really looking forward to spending that time with him, because he's starting to get so into it. And you're turning around and the telly's been switched to the WWE network. I'm like, you get taste, mate. I'll give you that.
I don't mind sitting watching the telly.
No, you're fine. Keep it on. You're good. Watch the John Cena, but I don't mind.
I'm going to get him his first T-shirt at the event, and he says he wants a John Cena T-shirt. So my missus is looking at me like that, going, because she knows my thoughts, obviously, and she's like going like that to me. Well, I say, well, listen, who wants a John Cena T-shirt? He'll get a John Cena T-shirt.
This is it.
I'm not going to go down that route. I'm going to get another one, and she's gutted because, as we'll get to once we've had a wee message for our sponsors, G4Claims, she is actually gutted because she wanted to buy a Daniel Bryan T-shirt.
Oh.
Awkward silence. Message for our sponsors, G4Claims. We thank them again for allowing us to use their studio. Hit them up, notatfaultclaim.com, and they'll sort you, as they'll tell you in this wee advert.
Keep 100% of your claim. G4Claims.
If you've been hurt in a road accident that wasn't your fault, you should really talk to G4Claims first. Unlike road accident solicitors, we don't charge you for our services, which could see you better off. To keep 100% of your compensation, have a chat with Nicole and the team. You'll be glad you did. Search online for G4Claims.
Keep 100% of your claim. G4Claims.
Yes, G4Claims. Top-notch company. Get on to Nicole and she'll sort you out if you've had an accident that isn't your fault. You don't need to go through your insurance, etc. She can help, and her team. They're the best in the business. Now, we alluded to Daniel Bryan. We cannot not address the elephant in the room. Obviously, the first big kind of the pop when this man's music hit was incredible. At AEW, we're talking about, obviously, and being all elite. They've since CM Punk. They have Adam Cole, baby. They have Bryan Danielson, Daniel Bryan. We need to address it. We should be enjoying this time, because it's like the Monday Night Wars, if you like, at a smaller scale. They're certainly creating a product which is worthy of watching, because I watch it.
Yeah, I mean it is. You can't really argue. They're getting a lot of viewers, and why wouldn't they? They're getting CM Punk, they're getting Bryan Danielson. They've got all these sort of guys who are mainstay WWE as well. You know, like your Mark Henry, Big Show, Jericho, Christian. So they have the talent and they're putting on a show. So, why are people not going to watch it? So
should we know just, I mean, you see a lot of things online, Rhiannon, about, this can't work, or this is better than the WWE, or whatever. Can we not just enjoy them both? Watch them both if you like, or if you prefer WWE, AEW, watch WWE, or vice versa. You know what I mean? I don't think there has to be a one or the other for us. I think we can leave the competition to the people who run the companies.
I would say so. I mean, I'm just inhaling it. I'm loving the fact that there's now more than one kind of quote-unquote main wrestling company there just now. There's more than just WWE. It's good for wrestling because it's elevating, because you don't want to be stagnant, so you want to elevate yourself, and having, like, I freaked out, I'm not going to lie. Having Punk was fantastic, but now they've just ended up with Ruby Soho. They've got Bryan Danielson. They've got Adam Cole on top of a very, very talented roster. Like, I like people like MJF. I think is one of the best heels in wrestling right now. Like, when you look at who they've got, it's just elevating themselves. But I mean, I'm inclined to agree. Just watch it, enjoy it. Okay, so you might not like a particular company, but you don't need to go on Twitter and rant, or Facebook and rant. You don't enjoy it, you don't enjoy it. It's as simple as that.
Totally. They've got good old JR as well. It's nice. It's nostalgic in the ears. And then it's fresh in the ring as well. I'm not saying WWE isn't. WWE's got a lot of great talent as well there, but it's just nice to have an alternative that you can sit and say, right, Monday night, okay, I watch on a Tuesday because I work, so I'm not going to sit up all night, but I watch on a Tuesday. Usually you watch Raw. Wednesday night you've got Dynamite, you can watch that on a Thursday, and then Friday night you've got SmackDown, you can catch all the weekend, so you're spoiled.
That's it.
Do you know what I mean? And obviously Rampage Friday night as well, and I don't know, man. I just don't get the people moaning all the time.
It's a strange one, right? Because if you go to, this is another one of Jason Reed's weird stories that go off.
Last time it was Harry Potter we ended up
Harry
at.
Potter.
So let's see where we go now.
Okay. So, right, it's like going to watch an action movie at the cinema, right? You go to watch, let's say, the latest Fast and Furious, right? And then, I don't know, Need for Speed or something comes out. You don't be like, oh, I'm not going to watch Need for Speed. I'm a Fast and Furious fan. Or, you don't go and watch Harry Potter and be like, I'm not watching Lord of the Rings. What's that all about? I'm a Harry Potter fan. No, you just go and enjoy what you want to watch. Like, wrestling is wrestling. All wrestling is good. If you like one wrestling, fair play. If you like the other, cool. If you like the both, woohoo! You know what I mean? Like, just enjoy yourself. You don't have to have all these negative vibes up in here, No negative vibes here on this podcast, folks.
Nope.
We're a fan of all types of wrestling.
Yep.
And so the message is loud and clear. Watch whatever wrestling you want. And don't complain.
But we all know the best wrestling promotion to watch is ICW. We all know that. We're just keen on there's airtime at the minute, but we all know that ICW is the best one to watch because you can find the legend that is Jason Reed there. So what's not to like? Let's face it. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But CM Punk, mate, how do you think it's going to go with CM Punk? Obviously, he's a huge name. It's the whole thing. Was it 7 years that he's not been in a ring? Well, he has now, obviously, for All Out. But it's, it's like you said, they've got a lot of big hitters that were made essentially in the WWE, but will steal the headlines now in AEW.
It's interesting. It's so interesting because there's so many people that he could potentially, end up working alongside and with. There's so much potential. We could go one way, could go the other. I think it's going to be good. He doesn't have to, have these sort of huge, massive, long matches or whatever. And he can go in with the younger guys and put them over. Like, I had a guy, one of my mates messaged me the other day, being like, before the Darby Allin match, he's like, Darby Allin's got to win, right? He's, because Punk said he's going to come back and put these people over. I'm like, yeah, brother, the guy doesn't need to win to get put over, quote unquote. He's going to go in there, make him look $1 million, have an amazing match with him. If he wins, that's fine. But it's what happens, up until that. And he's going to get the rub from Punk, and this Darby Allin's now going to go on and have another feud. And then he's going to go on and do it again and again. So that's the whole purpose. He doesn't have to win the match to get the rub and to be put over. Ric Flair once said, you'd be the best wrestler in the world and never win a match in your life, which is true. So, it's exciting. I'm looking forward to it. And he's going to have so many more good matches, I think.
Totally. And also Darby Allin as well, Rhiannon, he's got Sting with him. You know what I mean? That carries, not that he needs it because he's work. He can actually, carry his advert, if you like, rather than, he's with Sting. But having Sting there and the nice wee touch at the end of the match, all out with Sting going in and shaking CM Punk's hand and then them helping him up, etc. I just think the whole CM Punk angle, if they do it right, it'll be amazing.
Oh, it will be. As he said, he's there to elevate the younger guys, and he is still such a name in wrestling, despite the fact that he hadn't wrestled in 7 years. It was still somebody that people spoke about, quite a lot on Twitter, on Facebook, whatever. He was still quite an elevated name. So it's just fantastic for the kind of younger guys in All Elite right now. It's just, he's a name that if you're wrestling him, you're getting the rub. And as Jason said, he doesn't need to wrestle half of our matches. He just needs to be able to go in there, take the bumps, do what he knows he can do, as the quote-unquote best in the world, and that's all you really need from him. But I mean, I love watching him. I was so into like the Straight Edge Society. I was into such a lot of the stuff that he done, in WWE, so to have him back was fantastic. Minus the trunks leggings things. I'm not so sure about that. I'm not used to him in
so
his
many
trunks.
messages about that as well. I didn't realise it was such
so
like
odd.
yeah, a lot of people aren't really liking the old tights.
No, I think he's better with the trunks. That's CM Punk.
Agree. This is like his Ring of Honor, like kind of shots, his half shots or whatever. It was very odd, but I mean, it was good, and I thought the match with Darby Allin was good, and I think having Darby Allin this thing only elevates Darby Allin. But as you say, he does his talking in the ring really, so it's just all around good to watch.
Here's a question for you both. So, if someone were to ask you last year, even the start of this year, CM Punk will return, however, he will wear tights. Yes or no?
I'd still take it.
Right, there we go.
I'd say yes. Which leads us on to the next point. Yes. Bryan Danielson. Now, I told you me and my missus watched Total Bellas on the network. And my missus fell in love with Daniel Bryan, right? She just absolutely idolizes the guy. When the whole match with Roman Reigns will be banished for SmackDown and all that stuff, she was like to me, doesn't mean he's leaving, does it? And obviously I had seen the rumours online and stuff, and you're thinking, maybe it does actually. But I was saying, no, he'll probably pop up on Raw or something. Do you know what I mean? That's what these things do. It's just a story, it'll work like that. And then, obviously, there he rocks up in AEW. So now even she's like that. The other day I was going through, I think it's Fight, FITE. Network, whatever it is, Fight TV, I think, and I've signed up to it, and even she's now behind. Let's sign up to that because I want to watch Bryan Danielson now. So I thought, right, good. His reasons for leaving the WWE, mate, and going to AEW were quite interesting, I found, in the sense that obviously he said, I think I'm quoting here, but paraphrasing, I think he says that Vince maybe kind of held him back a wee bit for his own good. Health reasons, the injuries, etc., the career-ending injury that he had. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I think Vince has a duty of care to his staff, performers, talent, whatever you want to call them, superstars, to turn around and say, no, actually, I don't think that's good for your health. And I commend him for that, because he's obviously not seen business before the health of his people, which I think is the right way to do things. But on AEW, they are more in control of their own creative, if you like. How do you see that playing out? Because as a wrestler yourself, how would you like somebody to hold you back, or if it was for your own good, even though you maybe didn't agree it?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously difficult. It's probably easy to sit here and give opinions, but unless you're Bryan Danielson, you're not really going to know how he's the only one that knows how he feels about it. Obviously had that injury which kept him out for however many years, and then they finally got the all clear. And, he had to do these sort of rigorous tests after every match, had to get checked over. And there was maybe certain, matches and stuff that he perhaps pitched. And, because of that particular injury, they maybe weren't so keen on it. I think there was talk about him trying to do work outside of WWE while still working for WWE. And, maybe that was, because you have that, there's less control there. Yeah. When you have the talent there, you can control and you can look after them. But as soon as you remove that element, that's when it gets a bit sketchy. So it could have been a case of that, and Bryan Danielson's maybe just been, listen, I want to do this, no hard feelings, but this is how I feel. And Vince is probably like, yeah, cool, no worries, best of luck, see you in a year or 2 years. Because that's my take on it, is he'll be back in WWE before you know it. I think he'll go and have a little bit of fun here, maybe scratch the itch, so to speak, a year, 2 years, and then I think he'll be back. Because he loves WWE. Obviously, WWE gave him all that success. His partner, his father-in-law's there. His partner, his sister-in-law, etc., etc. I think there was no sort of bad taste or whatever. And I think he even said in his press conference that he's got a lot of time for Vince.
He loves him, he said. I think was the words,
See, I can't really see him being in AEW forever. I can really, really see him going back there soon.
I think, Rhiannon, it will be as Jason says, scratch the itch, let's go and let's do what I want to do. However, it'll never be home. to him, probably.
Yep.
You know, the WWE is always going to be his home, I think, and I think I agree with you 100%, mate. I think he'll be back there.
I'm inclined to agree, because we met his wife there as well. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of stuff that happened in that company that's gave him, it's fulfilled him, I guess, in a way. So I'm inclined to agree. I think it will be scratch the itch, kind of have the matches that maybe he wouldn't be able to have being in WWE, i.e. another American Dragon CM Punk match. I'm always up for watching them wrestle. I could watch them wrestle all day, every day. I think him versus Adam Cole is a match I really, really want to see. Him versus Kenny Omega. There's so many really good quality matches you could have in AEW. So I'm inclined to agree. I think it will be scratch the itch for them and then back to WWE again.
Yeah, and I mean, if that's the case, Vince is not really going to be losing sleep over it, is he? Because if you think about it, he's going to have all these amazing matches and get that huge following of AEW and then pop back up at WWE or something. So, Vince is like, crack on, mate, whatever. See you soon. So I think, what was I was speaking to somebody today. Was it maybe Big Show or something? Was it maybe you?
I'm signing, mate.
When Big Show was going, and Vince was like, I think you'll do amazing for them. Like, best of luck. When he was going to, when he was going to AEW, and he obviously spoke to Vince about it, Big Show, and there's the old saw again. And Vince is like, that's great news. Like, I think you'll do amazing over there. Best of luck and speak soon, type thing. So.
Listen, you can't be in that business and be like that. Do you know what I mean? At the end of the day, these guys as well have went on and done it behind Vince's back. They've done it the proper way. That guy's gave them a lot throughout their career. He's made them the name that they are today. Do you know what I mean? He's really they go out and perform in the ring, and ultimately they'll ever die by that anyway. But he's given them that platform. He's given them the TV time. He's given them the space to work. And I think it was doing the right thing, going by his medical, if that was correct, going by the medical side of things in regards to Bryan Danielson. And Vince, then he would leave himself wide open if something happened to somebody who has a young family, and things like that. And I've got to say fair play to him, because a lot of people say, money related. Well, it would have been money then having Daniel Bryan doing what he does best. Do you know what I mean?
Right, exactly.
But he put him first. He put Daniel Bryan first. He put his family first before that money side of things, and you've got to take your hat off to a guy like that. Do you know what I mean, for doing that?
Yeah, and by the way, there was absolutely zero requirement to extend his contract throughout the time that he was sidelined.
Totally.
And they done it every single time. Kept him, employed, gave him tons to do. Got all these checks done and stuff. Ultimately, it was Daniel Bryan's own sort of doctors and stuff that got the all clear in the end. But it's not to take away from the fact that up until then, he was still employed the whole time, as was his partner, etc., etc. So, I don't think we can fault WWE for not looking out for anyone.
Moving onwards, I suppose people leaving WWE like that, mate, opens up opportunities for other people. And we know Vince watches this podcast quite a lot.
He does, yeah.
If you go, you've already got a ready-made package in the Staunch Superstar and Coach Trip.
Okay.
You've already got that there. So he doesn't need to tamper with it. He doesn't need to fix it. He doesn't need to do it and weigh it. All he needs to do is just put the contract.
Yeah, I mean, me turning up with some Rangers gear in Cincinnati, Ohio. That'll really get the fans going. So yeah,
Morris Edu, Max Newton, the crowd. He's on it us.
We are the people, bro.
So I think they're already here. The talent's here in Scotland, Vince. You just need to look, and it's here.
I'll see you soon, Mr. McMahon.
Oh, brilliant! I love it. Bringing us to the end. I'm just going to play that while I talk, right? Because he's my hero in the rest of the world. Bring us to the end of that. It's been fun. We always love doing these wrestling podcasts. We always say we're not going to leave it as long, but we schedules and we work life. And for all you, not just yourself, for all you is a nightmare. But Rhiannon, how have you found? Obviously, your first one on doing the wrestling.
Great fun. I've really, really enjoyed it.
Good. That's what it's all about. So we're having a laugh, having a bit of fun, and talking about the wrestling, as they say.
Correct.
Always a pleasure, mate, and thanks very much for coming in.
Pleasure for being here. I love having this quarterly. It's fun. I love talking about wrestling, and it's here comes the water spit by this bit here. But yeah, I love it. Love wrestling, and always buzzing to share it with people who also love wrestling.
Yes, yep, love it. And a lot of people say, "You still watch wrestling?" I've never left it.
We still watch wrestling, all right? We're still watching. We always will. Don't give us that patter. And don't give us the patter about giant haystacks and Big Daddy. And don't ask me if it hurts. Don't ask me if it's real. And don't ask me if I'll be on the telly one day, because I already am.
He's on the network.
Don't ask me if I know Grado as well. All right? Jesus.
Do you know Drew?
That.
Okay.
That's all from me.
Thanks very much to everybody for watching. It's always fun doing this podcast, and we shall see you next time. Enjoy.